hello. Sorry for being late. I know that, I mean, I'm small enough that nobody really would notice if I was late, but you know what, for my own personal, ideals, I guess, principles, something along those lines, I feel bad for being 6 minutes late. But yeah, I decided that we would be coming back to Dark Cloud. It has been 2-ish weeks. And we are going on to part 3 with Axel. I did do a tiny bit of grinding, mostly just to get, our, companion. I forgot what I named her. It has been a little bit too long. To get Boots, a better slingshot, just to kind of make things a little bit easier, down the line in this, or with, God. I was about to say that, like, you know, I slept well, and, you know, that would normally be good enough to really get through, but all of a sudden I'm just drawing blanks and I can't seem to talk. It's weird. Anyway, I got her a better slingshot so that way later on in this dungeon, things can go a little bit easier. Still need to do a little bit of grinding with it, which is unfortunate. But it is, does make it a little bit easier for better content. Well, not better content, but for content in general. Let's see, where am I at with you? So, let's go ahead and switch to her and kind of do a little bit of grinding with her new slingshot just to get that kind of leveled up. Save bats. But yeah, one, looking at the previous videos on here, as well as kind of how some of my other videos have been going, kind of figured I'd just come back to here and continue the playthrough. Plus, I really should try to finish this game. I mean, I finished it before on my own, but, like, you know, since I've started playing this as a game, and it seems to be, you know, relatively popular for such a small channel as mine is, you know, I should probably actually do like a legit playthrough of it. It's gonna be a while. I'm gonna try not to grind too much, and I'm gonna try to stay on top of my weapons. Basically, once I get going and I get, like, the earlier weapons leveled up with new characters as they pop up, then I should be able to kind of start focusing on flying through. The only time I should be grinding is when I get a new character, not when I've been playing for a while, just because at a certain point I should pick, like, a weapon to focus on and then just level that up. So, as opposed to what I normally do, which is, like, I try to level up, like, multiple weapons at the same time for each character and have it. So, but get like one good swing with this one before this one goes. Something that I did kind of want to talk about, and it's not like overly important or anything and whatnot, but I am an amateur writer and amateur world builder. I've got a few projects that I work on off and on. Unfortunately, I do suffer from, I guess, motivational disorders. My ADHD kicks in usually at the worst times, and then I end up procrastinating because I remember a while ago watching a video about how ADHD is probably a misnomer, because it's not that you have attention disorder. It's that you have a motivation disorder, and while a quote-unquote normal person, because I think everybody's got a little bit of ADHD going on, a normal person is usually capable of staying focused on a task and whatnot, and then being able to switch off that task when necessary. Somebody with ADHD, especially severe ADHD, mine is mild, they have a hard time focusing on things that don't interest them, and then if it does interest them, they hyper-focus on it, which is something that I do. I'll binge videos on a topic that seriously interests me for, like, I don't know, weeks on end. I think one time I spent like a year binging one topic. Can't remember exactly what it was now. But like just every single video on that one topic, I had to watch. And it got a little bit crazy. And then I kind of just fell out of it. And that's kind of what ADHD does, is if it doesn't interest you at all, or even if it just doesn't interest you in that moment, you can't focus on it, like, no matter how hard you try. But then if it does interest you, you hyper-focus on it, almost to the point of obsession, for a very long time. And it's the only thing you can do, it's the only thing you want to do, and for people with it severely, it can make it to where, like, basic things become difficult to do because they don't hold your interest. Anyway, complete tangent aside, what I did want to talk about was some world building. As I said, I've been an amateur world builder for... there we go. I've been an amateur world builder for like 6 years or so, roughly around the same time as running D&D games. And I've wanted to be a writer for a while. So I kind of go back and forth on that, and I'll make some decent progress, and I kind of stop. But I'm trying to get back into it. Something that I wanted to talk about was on world building, is like how to start world building. And I've watched a lot of videos on it, and I've put in a good chunk of the various advices of Artifactian or Hello Future Me into effects, but I've noticed that there's a trend, especially amongst cartographers and world builders and stuff, of wanting to make things as realistic as possible because they get it in their head that it has to be realistic or it's not worth doing. Let's go ahead and get this leveled up. And it is true that the best world building does have some elements of realism in it. Not necessarily that it is realistic in and of itself, but that it can come off as, or it comes off as believable. And one of the easiest ways to make things believable is to base things on how reality works, so that way there's less hurdles to get through to make things believable. You know, you don't. It's hard to imagine floating mountains, but if you base floating mountains off of extreme levels of magnetism, then it becomes a little bit easier to believe how that might work, and whatnot. So things like that. And in fantasy, that is, it's a blessing and a curse to make things as believable as possible. And I watched a lot of videos on how to make, do more realistic world building, do realistic climates, as well as realistic rivers. Rivers is a hilarious topic to bring up with world builders and fantasy cartographers, because, like, you're guaranteed to get some level of argument, even in areas where people agree on that. Apparently nobody can do rivers right. Which is hilarious. But one of the main things that I wanted to talk about bringing this up was there's two philosophies with world building. Two main ones. There's a billion different ways you can do it, but the two main groups that they fall into is bottom up and top down. So bottom up world building would be you start off with like the map, which is what a lot of people who want to build worlds do. You start off with the map, you start off with the physics and stuff like that. You try to build out the world as realistically as possible, because the map can influence a lot of how things will interact and stuff, especially if you're planning on doing like this big epic thing and you want to have very diverse cultures and believable religions and economics. That's the word. Oh, I need to heal and not break my sword. It's very difficult to talk about something that's slightly complicated and play a game at the same time, even though this game does not necessarily require a ton of focus. When things get a little hairy, it gets difficult to do both. But we're going to keep push forward with my random multitasking that I've just decided to do. There we go. So anyway, location and geography affects so much of our worlds and how we live. If the war started was because like 20 million years ago there was a forest that had led to large amounts of coal deposits in the southeast Appalachians, and that made it to where the Appalachians were good not only for farming because of their typical climate, but also because of the mining that was there, so that way it could lead to developments in coal power and trains and stuff like that, and steam power. And that had a huge effect on the economics and why slavery ended up being more prominent down south as opposed to up north, and then what eventually led to the schism that led to the Civil War. It goes through so many things. And it is true that geography can affect a ton. So that's the bottom-up philosophy. And then the top-down philosophy is where you would start off with higher concepts, and you would go ahead and you would build it out from a higher idea, and you'll make the world fit that idea. And a good example of how that might work would be starting off with your gods, specifically in my fantasy, starting off with the gods of the world, rather than and building the world to fit that, rather than starting off with the world and then having the gods fit the world. Both are perfectly legitimate. However, I do believe that there should be used for different genres. So for instance, if you're going to go more of a sci-fi route, then I think, in my personal opinion, that you should focus more on... where's this one? I feel bad about getting rid of weapons, but I don't have any more room, and I might get a better weapon. For instance, second Gladius. So for sci-fi, I think bottom down is one of the better options, or bottom up is one of the better options, because you want to make sure that things are as believable as possible. And you don't want with sci-fi. It's in the name. It has to be scientific in some way. You can't just... It's not sci-fi if it's just... sorry, I was losing focus. If it's, because the gods decided it's going to be that way kind of thing. There are some sci-fi books that do take that approach, and there isn't anything wrong with it, but I would argue that sci-fi has to be more on the scientific side as opposed to fantasy. Now you have science fantasy where you have a mix of both, and that's also totally fine. Just my belief is if you're going to go with hard science fiction, then you need to go with a bottom-up strategy of world building, so that way everything fits perfectly. But with fantasy, I actually think going the other way, the top-down approach, works better, because you're talking about a world where magic can heavily alter the world. Why would you assume that you can't have cross-continental rivers, just because they don't exist in the real world? It is specifically fantasy. The one rule with any world building is if you're going to do something that strays off course of reality, you have to have a reason for it. It can't just be, because, I decided that I will have a river that goes from East Coast to West Coast, because that's not how rivers work. So there would have to be a reason for rivers breaking the laws of physics. So, for instance, going with, I don't remember if freeze gets rid of that. So, for instance, with the river example, if you wanted a cross-continental river, you could go ahead and say there's a lake that was blessed by the goddess of water that had spread her arms across the continents and therefore made this large canal to link the two oceans together, or something like that. There has to be some sort of believable reason that can be easily explained and easily comprehended. So I figured what a lot of authors do in order to make sure that their worlds are as believable as possible is they try to go from the bottom up, which is an admirable thing. It is incredibly hard to do. I've attempted to do it several times, and you can seriously get stuck in the weeds. But if you're telling a fantasy story, and your main goal is the story side of things, and not so much the... almost like that. Would have been very sad. If your main goal is world building for storytelling, then I think you should actually start with a story. And that story would be starting off with the creation myth and starting off with the gods, because in fantasy, a lot of times the gods, the religions, have a more prominent effect in the world. Doesn't mean you could just immediately toss out all real world elements, because if you tried to create a world that doesn't rely on any real world physics, it's going to be really, really hard for anybody to grasp that. But if you have things that would break the real world physics, it would be I believe it would be in the best interest to do it from a position of explaining it through the top-down approach of, okay, well, I wanted this thing to happen, but it doesn't line up with reality, so I'm going to explain it through the mythos that exists in this world. So that's kind of the philosophy that I think that one should go with. And that being said, I'm also a firm believer of making sure you know what the rules are for, what the strict rules are, quote unquote, for world building or writing or painting, drawing, all that stuff. So that way you can deliberately break them to make points or to emphasize different aspects of your art. So, for instance, like because rivers end up usually becoming the biggest arguments in world building, understanding how rivers work normally can better help you understand what would happen if, and how rivers and lakes and water features in general affect the world as a whole. Understanding that can help you better understand how it would be affected if you changed the rules. So, for instance, changing the rules with having some sort of effect where, under certain conditions, rivers flow in the opposite direction. Almost like titles for a brief period of time. That can be an interesting thing to go into and explore. God damn it. I don't think I have another... I think I have any holy water. What weapon am I on? We're just gonna keep getting rid of this one as we go through. And hopefully I can get one of my weapons up to level 5 to status break it, so I can open up my one that way and make it useful rather than just dumping the weapon. So for instance, with this game, Dark Cloud, I actually think that they started off with the concept of the Fairy King, the war between East and West, and the Dark Genie, because those were the focuses of the game, and therefore that's what they wanted to base the entire world off of. And then from there, they went ahead and were like, okay, well, we need these elements in the game to be interesting and stuff like that. And they made the world fit the game rather than making the game fit the world. And you can create some amazing things off of that philosophy rather than exclusively going with a realistic roundup kind of thing. And I think that's something that a lot of the world building communities have kind of fallen out of favor of, but they should probably come back to. And Hello Future Me did an amazing video on the benefits of soft world building versus hard world building, and how you can actually make a more believable world if you do more soft world building than if you did hard world building. Because there's a lot of things in reality that people don't have or don't agree on how reality works. So pretending like you know exactly everything that's going on in the world when, or in your fictional world, when in reality we don't even understand how everything works. I mean, there's an easy example would be between macro physics versus micro physics, where, you know, in macro physics you have the four laws. Let's see if I get this right. You have strong force, weak force, magnetism, and gravity, and those almost dictate everything in the world or in the universe. But then once you get down to the microscopic scale of atoms and stuff like that, those physics stop working the way you would predict, and it starts getting complicated and things stop making sense. And you have to go with a completely different rule book for microphysics, and you know, quantum physics. It's just at a certain point it just stops working, and you're like, okay, well, none of this makes sense anymore. So you know, the fact that that's something that we're still questioning, you know, should lend itself to the fact that in the real or in your fictional worlds, you know, let there be room for some questions and stuff, because it also creates, you know, opportunities for your audience to come up with theories of how things work. something that people also forget is we don't have to fully understand a concept or fully understand an aspect of reality before we use it. Usually it's we use it first, then we figure out why it works. We figure out that it works first, and then we figure out why it works, as opposed to figuring out why something works and then figuring out how it works. Hello, and thank you for joining. I hope you've been enjoying my rant on world building so far. Assuming that you've heard some of it before I noticed you joined. I will get to your comments here in just a second. There we go. 09 Pop 09. Reality is false, though. We only see our perspective of reality. Time isn't actually real. Oh, game world building. I just joined. Game world building and just fictional world building in general. I won't get into the argument on reality because that's a little bit more higher tier and way more complicated than just perspectives or anything. But yeah, focusing on fictional world building of any type, so sci-fi and fantasy. And I was talking about how fantasy, or with world building in general, there's two philosophies. And with sci-fi world building, it makes sense to go with a bottom-up strategy where, like, you work on the laws of physics and the planets and their ecosystems and all this stuff before you really start focusing on the storytelling, because with science fiction, it makes more sense to try to make sure that everything is, like, from the ground up, all fits together neatly. But with fantasy world building, because magic is a thing, and you can have impossible things occur, that it makes more sense to go with a top-down approach, where you would start off with the fantastical, and you'll make the world fit it. So, just like any skill with world building, since you just said you need to improve your world building skills, like any skill, the more you practice it, the better you at it you get. And then world building is very similar to like painting and sculpting. It's very much an artistic thing. You're sculpting a reality. So study up on a bunch of other world builders and worlds and authors and whatnot, and see what their techniques were, and then start crafting your own technique towards your own thing. Something else I'd mentioned before you joined was be right back, one sec. Something that I was mentioning before you joined was that it's good to start off with, or it's good to learn the established rules of an art first, so that way you can deliberately choose what rules you break. So with drawing, if you take an art class, a lot of times they'll teach you about form and shape and all of this other stuff, but then they'll go ahead and get into, but you'll start to feel like it's very stifling when you do art projects and stuff, like in art school or in art class in high school and stuff like that. People talk about, like, it's art, it's supposed to be creative, so there shouldn't be any wrong answers. What they're trying to teach you is the established techniques, so that way you have an understanding of why certain things are done a certain way, and then later on you can go ahead and deliberately break those rules, knowing why you're breaking those rules and why those rules were there in the first place. Understanding why you're breaking a rule has a much stronger impact in an art project than just breaking the rule because you didn't like that rule there. And yeah, show, not tell is important, but creator, Hello Future Me, he's pretty big in the world building community. I'm sure you've heard of him. He did a video talking about how that there are certain points where you do need to tell and not show. If you have to go through and try to show everything, it can get overwhelming for an audience. With Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling had a high tendency of wanting to do the show versus tell. So nobody said anything. Sometimes people would talk, or everybody said something excitedly or dramatically or ecstatically, something like that. At no point does anybody just say something. So sometimes it can get a little bit overwhelming when you're showing everything. Alright. There are definitely thousands of ways to skin a cat. Harry Potter is a good example of, for some reason, that's all starred out. Harry has, after doing the math, the equivalent of like 400,000, which is really a lot of money. Or which isn't really a lot of money. Keep in mind currency exchanges on what is it? Currency exchanges, even in fictional worlds, do have an effect. Keep in mind that story world building versus realistic world building are separate entities. With story world building, if it doesn't help the story in any way, you don't need to go into detail on it. Not trying to bring religion into it, and I'm not trying to push any beliefs or anything, just using it as an example. In the Bible, with the story of Adam and Eve being a prevalent story in our society, something to keep in mind is that story, even if you go off of just the Bible's reference of how old the world is, it's at minimum 6,000 years old. It's probably much older for Adam and Eve. It's one of the oldest stories ever told. And if you look at it from a world-building perspective, almost none of it makes sense. But if you look at it, or from a scientific perspective, none of it makes sense. But if you go from it from like a more moral-based thing, and you realize that it's trying to tell a story, the world-building in there makes perfect sense. So when you're trying to tell a good story, then the world building has to come second to the story you're telling. You still need to make sure you're doing a good job with your world building, so that way, people don't question it. But basically, as long as people don't stop in the middle of the story going, wait a minute, none of this makes sense, kind of thing, then you're doing a good job. It's when they come into it, if they say, wait, none of this makes sense, but they didn't question it while reading the story or while enjoying it, enjoying as an audience member, then you've done what you're supposed to. If afterwards they start questioning things here and there, then that's fine. There's only so far you can keep people from not realizing reality is a thing. It's the philosophy of what is it? suspension of disbelief. If your world building is good enough to get people to forget about reality for a moment, you've done your part. You've done your job with world building. It doesn't need to be any more or any less detailed than that. If you add extras in there to keep things going, and you added extra lore that doesn't even come up at all, but just kind of helps the world feel a little bit more full, that's great. But in storytelling, you only need, quote unquote, need. You can always do more, but you only need to do enough to keep people from questioning how things work. Let's get through some of these real quick before I read more of your comments. Ah! Crap. I hate it doing this. Alright. Then we'll go ahead and start using the weapon again. Ah, damn it. Stop it! Okay. Put that up there. Let's go ahead and give you your antidote. There it is. Okay, that's okay. Let's go ahead and give you some bread. Okay, now that I've paused. I mean, if you consider the Bible to be just passed down human stories, we found evidence of a large flood. We found Troy, so some historical myths are true. It's just finding the kernel. Readers ask questions, holes get formed. So is Terraria reason? Oh, is the reason you're doing throwables is to avoid wasting XP. Yes, I am trying to avoid wasting XP in the game. The drops are just a nice bonus. I'm just trying to not use my weapon if I can avoid it, but unfortunately I didn't have enough throwables. So, God, I wish I was better at reading. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else. Oh, I also don't have repair powders. You're gonna have to listen to music for a little bit. And for that, I do apologize, because it gets really annoying really fast, so hopefully I can get through these last 5 quickly. Ah! Surprise! There we go. Yeah, I'd also like to switch back to Axel, the main character. I renamed him from Tone. But unfortunately his weapon is also about to break, and I would like to actually switch his weapon, and he's cursed, so I'm also trying to boost up Zhao. I named her Boots in here to make sure that the boss fight at the end of this dungeon is a little bit easier, which we will be moving on towards here in just a second. I cleared up to floor 12, so floor 12 I actually have to go through and still clear. Oh, I'm definitely looking for Steve. It gives me more things to read while I'm playing this game. I absolutely love Steve. Although he does get repetitive really, really quickly, so and I think Super Steve only adds like a few extra comments. It's also really hard not to use various glitches and effectively cheat codes in this game. especially now that I know of a few of them that can seriously make this like fly through. I may I may occasionally use like the broken dagger glitch just to quickly get a character's main weapon up to speed, and then from there like just not use any glitches, just so that way I'm saving a little bit of time from having to grind so much, because this game gets really grindy really fast. If they did Steve in a game nowadays, it could be good. There's been a few games that have done something like Steve before with like talking weapons and stuff. Borderlands has a few talking weapons where you attach the AI to it. It can get really annoying really fast though. Having a silent weapon that just has dialogue underneath that you can easily ignore if you've seen the jokes like 80 times is, I think, the better option. So yeah, it's difficult to resist the broken dagger glitch, but like I said, I think I might just use it to keep myself from having to sit here and grind for hours off stream, just to keep myself from wasting you guys' time, as well as being able to give myself a little bit more room to play a few other games throughout the week. But yeah, I have only like briefly played the second one. The fact that there was voiced dialogue in the second one seriously threw me for a loop. The first time I heard people talking, I was like, wait, people talk in Dark Cloud? It's not just reading? It was really weird. And then also they changed a few of like the main mechanics of how things work, and that also confused the crap out of me, so I don't know if I'm gonna actually play Dark Cloud 2 once I beat this one. I probably will, but yeah, the first time I played Dark Cloud 2, it just seriously threw me for a loop, so I think I only got through like the first dungeon, and then I stopped. In your humble opinion, the first game has a better dungeon crawling mechanic. The sequel has a way better story. I am definitely in my gaming for story most of the time. You know, I play like Call of Duty and some of the other ones just kind of as easy staples. They're culturally relevant, and like it's usually easy to find a community to kind of game with. Some of my friends play a lot of Call of Duty, so it's something that's easier to play with on there. But I'm more about, I personally prefer games with higher value stories. So if you're saying that the second one has a better story, I will definitely consider that after this one. Story in here is solid. It's not like the greatest thing ever told, but it's a good hero's journey adventure. So it's very reliable. It gets you hooked into it relatively quickly. I mean, most stories nowadays, they try to give you stronger, less existential reasons to want to complete the story and stuff, and sometimes they make it more complicated than it needs to be. This one's just a simple, hey, there's an evil genie, or there's an evil power that's going to destroy the world, and you are the chosen one who has to save it. So, you know what? There's nothing wrong with the basic story. You don't need it more complicated than that. And this is coming from a guy who greatly loved the Metal Gear franchise. And that is a complicated-ass storyline. This is true. I am trying to talk to the NPCs a little bit more. Like I said, it gives me more dialogue to read and stuff instead of just playing through. Normally, if I was playing this game on my own, I would probably just talk to them real quick, learn what they specifically need for their house, and then never speak to them again. So, but I'm trying to be a little bit more involved in the story and a little bit more thorough with the dialogue trees. So this is what it's like to be like a somewhat successful streamer with a person who's actually interested in what you're doing. So this is good. I will definitely try to keep this going. Ow! Still trying to figure out how exactly this is a dog. It has wings. It confuses me. Let's see, did I pick up a holy water yet? I did pick up that. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, let's switch back. By the time I get around to the other part of this dungeon that I haven't seen yet, my stamina drink should be gone, and I should have uncursed myself. I don't think I'm gonna play Hello Kitty Barbie Adventure. At least not until I hit like 300 subscribers or something like that. Then I might do one stream of it. No, I'm specifically playing games that interest me. I like story-based games, and then for my less story-based games, racing games. So I play like Gran Turismo and stuff like that. I was playing Need for Speed. You might still see it on my VODs on stream, and then if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see it there. But that doesn't seem to be as popular. If I was playing Most Wanted, I'm pretty sure I'd get a lot more people interested in watching it. But I'm playing Need for Speed Heat, which is weird. It's still not as good as any of the other ones. Payback was actually pretty decent. I played all the way through Payback, and I enjoyed that one. That one actually kept me engrossed. Need for Speed Heat, I've tried like 5 times, and I just, like, basically as soon as I get like a quarter of the way through, I'm just like, I can't keep playing it. Seriously though, if you have a good enough computer, check out Dark Cloud Enhanced. I will definitely do that once I finally get a good enough computer. My laptop, I am constantly in this love-hate relationship with how well it works versus wanting to just chuck it out my window. For whatever reason, I got like the dumbest overpriced laptop because it is technically good enough to run higher graphic games and more complicated mods and stuff like that, but it only has one hard drive, so I have to get a separate hard drive for it, and because of the Windows 11 features of it, like preloading stuff, it gets so bogged down almost to the point where it's unusable, and I have to like go through and clean it out every week. It is so frustrating. I was legitimately considering like selling it. And it's like basically brand new. I think I got it like earlier last year. But we finally got it working a little bit better. I'm not super knowledgeable about computers. My computer literacy is very, very low compared to my wife, and she was able to kind of help get it working again. So I'm very, very thankful for that. But yeah, I'll have to give that a look. Right now, I'm just playing off of PlayStation 4. That's what I've been doing all of my streaming on. I would like to switch over to the PC Master Race one, because my prospects of getting a PlayStation 5 have just dropped dramatically, and that's like one side of it. And then the other side of it is just I have access to more games on PC, so I think I'm gonna make that switch over. Because there's a few other games on there that I wouldn't mind playing. I have a buddy who is really big into like Tarkov and stuff, but I've never played. But I think that would be really enjoyable. So. It's really hard. I'm a bit of a Sony loyalist. PlayStation, the PS1 was my very first console, and I've had a PlayStation my entire life. I still have my PS2, and a good chunk of my PS2 and PS1 games. So it's really hard for me not to break, or it's really hard for me to break from PlayStation. But there's just, I mean, the fact that almost every Xbox game I can play on PC, and two, the fact that, like, with the exception of a couple exclusives, almost every single game that I want to play, I could play on PC. Like, I kind of feel like I should, instead of waiting and spending the money on the PS5, which, don't get me wrong, I would absolutely love one. If somebody gave me a PS5, I would be beyond thrilled. Just, you know, for practical reasons, for streaming and stuff like that, it's like, you know what, it makes more sense to just switch over to PC. Still trying to decide if I'm gonna switch also over to keyboard and mouse gameplay, or if I'm gonna stick to controller, just because I've been practicing with keyboard and mouse and I am awful. I have no idea how to place my hands. Controller is easy, just pick it up and you play. Most of the controls are pretty standardized for controllers, between Xbox, Nintendo, and stuff. But keyboard and mouse, like, that just confuses the crap out of me. Is the best way to stream. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured as well. I'm just broke, so I'm working with what I got. Yep. Being broke does suck. But you know what? Everybody has to go through these times. Keeps you humble. So, there was a brief period where me and my wife were doing really, really well, and then the economy kind of took a turn for the worst, and then we decided to do a couple trips that we really couldn't afford, but they kind of felt like we needed to do them because our families moved far away from us, and yeah, money goes away real quick. But we're building it back up. I will consider that, buying a cheaper version. Something else I was just thinking of doing was maybe doing a last-gen custom PC build, and then just, making it so that way it's easy to... making it to where it's relatively easily modular, so I can easily access the different parts and swap them out as I get more money. Yeah, we'll use the standard powder, and back the hell away. Run! Run! There we go. Cool. Now I don't have to waste money. Alright. Building wealth is easy. Building sustained wealth and living a comfortable life at the same time is hard. Wait, let me buy some things. There's a good chunk of PS2 games that I wouldn't mind playing. Since you're talking about, you know, getting capture cards for PS2 capture and stuff like that. There's a good chunk of PS2 games that I wouldn't mind playing from stream, but I'm not really a retro gamer. This is just a game that I played a lot growing up, so I wanted to play it on stream. Like I said, I'm just kind of playing the games that I really want to play. For instance, I might go ahead and start playing the Uncharted series again. And Uncharted 4 isn't exactly a classic game. So, but it's good to know about that option, because there's a few, like, Most Wanted on the original PlayStation 2 would definitely stream. Need for Speed Most Wanted. That was such a good game. I don't think racing games have ever been as good. Let's see. I need 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, I'm broke. Those. I don't think I need both of these. Alright, that should be good. Buy that. Buy that. And just that way I have an extra one. I love the simplicity of this soundtrack. Need to get a PS2 wheel to play more racing games. I don't necessarily think that's the best option. PlayStation 2 racing games were not built with a wheel in mind. At least not a lot of them. I think Gran Turismo is like the only one that actually tried to make sure that it functions. With my Need for Speed playthrough, I was trying to use a steering wheel for that, for Need for Speed Heat, and I was doing way worse than I was with the controller. It was honestly more frustrating with the wheel than with a controller. But Gran Turismo is fantastic with the wheel, so yeah, they're definitely just controller emulations. I'm also a fan of doing things for the lulz, so I don't blame you on that one. I still need to fix the other two weapons. I don't think I fixed these ones yet. Nope. There we go. Ah! The flyer scared me. My character got all glitchy. Alright, well, let's just switch back down to here. Oh, the fishing rod paraphernalia. I remember when the Wii came out, we got the Wii as like a family console, so I didn't play a lot of it, and we had various things to kind of enhance the controller, quote-unquote enhance the controller, just make it feel more realistic, and we had the golf club attachment that you could stick the Wiimote in, and while I was using that, I was playing golfing, and I went for a swing, and the paraphernalia just flew off and broke a very, very valuable prayer plate that we had on the wall, and it was, I felt so bad. Luckily I didn't get like a huge amount of trouble, because everybody was like, or they watched me do it, and they knew that I had the strap on and everything, and it just flew off. But yeah, it was, I felt so bad. Something that I wouldn't mind doing is also with PC is getting like sim racing, like iRacing or rFactor. Getting into those games and stuff and whatnot. I mean, I doubt I'd be able to move up and be super high up on sim racing. You know, that's getting high up in the major leagues of any competition. You're better off. You have a higher chance of winning the lottery than usually when you get into those areas. But just being able to do some realistic feeling sim racing, I think would be a lot of fun. At the very least, make myself believe that I'm much better at driving than I am. Alright, we are going to switch. Ow! Bitch! I would love to get the VR set up. That would be pretty freaking sweet. Getting the nice triple motor racing seat set up. Yeah. I would be very, very happy with either option. Yeah, currently I have the Thrustmaster T500 for PS3 and PS4. For Gran Turismo. It's solid. It's not the best. It's not a belt wheel. It's definitely a motor wheel. So its input's a little bit off and whatnot. But you know what? For I think it was like $150. It gets the job done. Well, shit. That's not good. Talking and playing this game has surprisingly gotten more difficult. Ah! Run away, run away, run away! There we go. I can at the very least clear this dungeon, unlock the next level, and then leave and come back to actually get all this stuff. So. VR is one of those things that's a little bit difficult for me. I don't get motion sickness or anything, it's just there's not a lot of good games to play using VR, at least with the PlayStation VR. So it's difficult for me to like really get into and invest in. But yeah, if Gran Turismo 7 had a VR mode that could also work in like sport mode, so you could actually like race against people and really feel like you're in there, I would probably be playing a shit ton more Gran Turismo 7. I know Sport has a VR game mode, but it's just for like, it's just so that way you can feel like you're in the car while doing time trials, and not for like competitive play or anything, which bugs me. I can't do horror games with VR. I can barely do horror games normally. Like, I don't react very big on horror games. If I did, I'd probably already be a much bigger streamer. But currently playing through Zombie on Thursdays, yeah, that makes me overly anxious. I don't do well with horror games, so doing it in VR would just be 1,000 times worse. was playing through the PlayStation VR game where you have to shoot all these like different spiders and stuff, and that freaking makes me jump every time. That one's hard for me to do. What am I looking for? I need to heal you up because you are injured. That's what I'm doing. But I don't know. Maybe I'll go ahead and get that once I finish Zombie, if I'm feeling brave enough for my Thursday games. This is true. Don't get me wrong, I have fun playing horror games. I very rarely, like feel bored or anything. Like, they can definitely hold my attention. I just am usually not a big fan of being scared. At least not by jump scares and whatnot. But, like, I will say my favorite experiences are when I'm playing, like, a game and I know something bad's about to happen and I kind of have to build up the courage to actually do it. Even though I know it's not real or anything. Sometimes I get a little bit too into the game. So, like, I'm really, really sad that I'm broke because one of the games that I would have been streaming right now would have been Dead Space. I would have definitely jumped onto that bandwagon because I freaking love Dead Space. But, what are we gonna do? Gotta work with what we got. Oh, I meant to leave. No, I think I have escape cover. Yep, we're gonna go ahead and... There we go. That's fair. Getting the original one and just playing on a modded Xbox 360 is totally fair. I personally try not to go outside of standard means when it comes to buying things that I like, just because, you know, I want to try to support various creators and whatnot. But as somebody who does try to create things, I do think it is more important that your content or your creation is appreciated more than you making money off of it. Although you should be able to make the money off of your stuff. So usually it's easy to make the money though after... Keep hitting the wrong button. There we go. It's like, I have no idea what I'm doing. It's the bicycle. I don't think there's anything else I can give you. Put this there. Nope. Put that there. I'll move you back one. There. It's gonna look like trash, but it's gonna work. This is true. I don't buy games on launch anymore. I've been screwed over one too many times. I pre-ordered, what was it? I pre-ordered the 2012 Need for Speed Most Wanted, and when I realized it was Burnout Paradise, but with a Most Wanted skin over it, I was so disappointed because I thought it was going to be either a continuation of the original Most Wanted, or it was going to be a recreation of it using modern cars and better graphics, and that's not what I got, so that disappointed the hell out of me. That was like my first real big one. And then I also pre-ordered No Man's Sky, because I fell for the hype on that. And I played it for about an hour or so, and then realized it wasn't the game that was promised. And that also, like, seriously left a bad taste in my mouth. I do know that with No Man's Sky, they fixed it a lot. My little brother got it after they did some of the major updates and whatnot, and he says that it's genuinely a good game now. But yeah, since those two, 2012 and I think 2016, I've just kind of been more on the side of, I'm not interested in buying games brand new. So I'll watch I watch various game reviewers and stuff like Angry Joe and whatnot, and I pay attention to what they think, because for the most part, some of the game reviewers and stuff, I usually have similar tastes. So if they don't like the game, there's a very good chance I wouldn't like the game. There's a few games that they've reviewed that I'm like, it's actually a decent game. Like, I have a few guilty pleasures. But yeah, like, I very rarely will ever buy a game brand new. Or at the very least, at launch. I'll wait a couple weeks to see whether or not it's worth getting. One of my guilty pleasures is like Call of Duty Infinity War, or Infinite Warfare. That's one. And that one, story-wise, actually was somewhat decent. It wasn't like as good as, say, like Black Ops, the original Black Ops, or the original Modern Warfare series. But like it did a good job, and like the very first scene with all of the space naval ships crashing into Geneva was super intense. Oh, I should have been reading things. My bad. If I hold square down, I can move faster. This way, even Mob won't be able to catch you. Okay. My bad. I meant to read all that. I feel bad now. I have dropped the ball. I had one job. I am an awful streamer. I must make up for this. Alright. I think... Let's see. Okay, I didn't get very far, so I don't have to worry about that. Let's go ahead and actually collect the rest of my stuff and get to the bottom of this dungeon so I can actually fight the boss. I have like 40 minutes to do it. Otherwise, my title for this stream is a lie. Actually, honestly, my title for this stream is kind of already a lie. Admittedly, I am trying to play off trends just to get it a little bit more seen. Until you get established, it's very, very difficult to get views and followers. Which, by the way, thank you for the follow. Greatly appreciate that. I am trying to hit 10 before March. I feel like that is a fair goal of kids. So, I greatly appreciate that. So, like that. Got weapons, so we're not listening to beeping. There we go. rather be poisoned than cursed, so we're going to take the cursed one first. Bandit slingshot. I have another llama! Uh-oh. Bad thing's about to happen. Being such low level sucks. I like coming back here after I've like gotten through the next 2 dungeons, because then my defense is so high that like nothing ever hurts me. Then it just becomes inconvenient because you get knocked over. Forgot I had these things. Oh, I didn't need above. Dun, 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 dun. The map. Look enough. Hold up. There we go. That's actually... There we go. Forgot, if you switch weapons too early, then the XP goes to the next weapon. Which is a useful trait when you're trying to level up a very low-level weapon in a high-level dungeon. Or I can get the 7th Heaven Sword and start using that to level up lower-level weapons. Ow, bitch. There we go. I forgot, I found one of these, or I was given one of those, and I thought, where did I gotta go? There we go. Zoom, zoom, zoom! Ooh, that got scary. Go ahead and switch you over to the bandit slingshot. Admittedly, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to Gran before the end of this stream. Part of it is just the fact that I have to get through floors 13 and 14, which are going to take a second. I have to finish building out Maroon Village, which is going to take a second. And on top of all of that, I seem to have drained myself of energy. Good conversations sometimes do that. So we will try to push through. I just don't know if I'm going to get it done in the next 30 minutes. Weapons. There we go. There. Let's hope this thing. That, and let's not die. And generally, not dying is a good strategy. Oh, I would totally be playing the new Harry Potter game if I had money. Which is more racist. Not entirely sure how that conversation went. Is it over the house elves? For the conversation on Harry Potter? Or was it on the pure bloods versus the mud bloods? Because both of those could easily qualify. Got it. The Jews vs. Goblins one, I can see the link, but I don't think that's what Rowling was intending when she first made it. I think it's just it happens to line up. I don't remember the monkey part of Harry Potter. But yes, doing that, like, legitimately is bad. I mean, keep in mind with goblins, especially because that's the one, yeah, in media in general. I remember when they were trying to make orcs to be black people in Lord of the Rings and trying to put a connection to that, and like there's no connection to it at all because orcs were not human. And there wasn't anything in Lord of the Rings saying that black people didn't exist. It's a legend that was written by an Englishman that takes place in a war-wise earlier version of the UK, so trying to read and not get slashed at is very difficult. I'm gonna explore the rest of this super quick. So a lot of times, oh nope, never mind. A lot of times if there's one little waterfall pool area, there's usually another one, but that does not seem to be the case in this time. Let's do this. Because I do not feel like getting close to you at the moment. There we go. Plus, maybe use one of the drops. Bats will never drop anything. But I was trying to hit both the bat and the master skeleton or master jacket, just so that way I wasn't wasting the bomb nuts. I like it when my nuts explode. Some of the items in here are weird. The Gooey Peach one makes my wife uncomfortable for some reason. She's like, "What was that?" And I'm like, "It's a Gooey Peach. It goes your enemies. It slows them down." She's like, "It's weird." She didn't like it. Once you get fishing, yeah. Yes, if you are willing to farm on the fishing, then it is much easier, but I am not somebody who is willing to farm on the fishing, so there's only, to be honest, I'm not a fan of the fishing, so I might go ahead and spend some time doing the fishing just to get the trophy, because I think it's like, well, between that and just finishing the game, those are the last trophies I need. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and fish in this game. My patience only goes so far. Yep. We did go into the back rooms in part 2. I was able to use the back rooms as part of the title to kind of help trick the YouTube algorithm. That was fun. I was like, yes, I can use this. So, just like how with this one, putting in the dark and darker to help improve on the algorithm a little bit more was appreciative. So, if you're gonna stream or make content, you gotta clickbait a little bit. There's no way to get around it. But as long as it fits. Don't just clickbait and then not ever address it. Don't put boobs in the thumbnail if there's no boobs. Yep, I do enjoy that as well. It's the fact that you can buy the floppy fish to get into the back rooms of the undersea region is super, super useful. Greatly enjoy that. I will keep that in mind when I actually get around to 2. That the fishing is better in Dark Cloud 2. Like I said, I've only played a little bit of it, and the change in the art style, and well, I guess it wasn't really a change, it was just an update. But the change in the fact that there's, you know, spoken dialogue, that seriously threw me off so bad. I was like, it's like, it would be like if all of a sudden Pokemon went from being the Game Boy Color or Game Boy original game to the Nintendo Switch versions now. Like, instantly, it just throws you for a loop. It's not a bad change, it was just one of those things where I was like, whoa, wasn't expecting that at all. And didn't feel like I was playing Dark Cloud. No, do not lick me. I do not consent. There we go. Yeah. I also tried to do the, what game was it? White Knight Chronicles. I did play that a little bit. My stepbrother played a ton of that growing up. As a level 5 game, and I'm vaguely aware of what was going on. I tried to play it. The semi-turn-based mechanics are weird. It was hard for me to wrap my head around. I'm pretty sure if I tried it again and I took some time to figure it out, maybe watch like a video or two on how to be good at the game, I could actually do okay at. Because I had the same issue with XCOM, where like I had no idea how to play XCOM, so I didn't like playing XCOM. And then, oh, shit. I found a dragon! Alright. So then we're gonna clear out the dungeon, and then we're gonna go ahead and come back. You bought it years ago, couldn't play it on the PS3 for some reason, auto trigger and the DRM would crash it. I haven't had a chance to pick it up. No, I think you should definitely give that a try, get the chance. Like I said, I was trying to play it on PS4 with, that's a lot of dragons. Why are there so many dragons? Yeah, it was on PS4 for a little bit, when it was PlayStation Now, because I had that, and then that got rolled into the PlayStation Plus Premium, because naming conventions naming things was not talked about in the meeting when they came up with that idea. Yeah, I gave it a try. The world building definitely caught my attention, because like you had this gigantic animal that was just a pack mule, and I was like, oh, this is cool. But yeah, I didn't know how to play it. I didn't understand how to play it, and I was like, I don't think I can play this. So yeah, I think if I watch a few videos on like how best to play White Knight Chronicles, I might give that a try again. Because frankly, Level 5 has been a decent studio. They put out Dark Cloud. So I don't know if they're still making games. I haven't really seen anything saying that they're still around. But if they are, I would be interested in seeing more of the catalog. Nino Kuni. I don't know that one. I'll have to look into that. Alright, let's go with these things. Fantasy Life. Oh, slingshot, let's go! I actually got a picture of this stuff. I think it was... this... I don't have ice. Shut the oh, there wasn't any of those. Beast, Mage, and Sky... and... attack, endurance, and speed, so... oh! Nope. Well, that was stupid of me. Pay attention to what you're doing, Austin. Stupid. Alright. We can at least get all 3 of these. At least it wasn't like Dino Killer or something like that. That would have sucked. Oh shit, where did you come from? Switch back to you, so I can steal a rock. Okay. Cool. Now I can go ahead and just open up these chests real quick and then leave the dungeon. Yeah, the dragons are kind of cute. They're very, very frumpy. They remind me of my wife's old car. She had a Scion, the 2006 Scion XB. Basically just a shoebox car. It was so ugly we loved it. It's like a pug. Got the short base and like squishy, boxy body and stuff. It's just absolutely adorable. Oh, hey! I made it to the bottom. Fantastic. We might actually be able to get this done in 15 minutes. I just gotta go back and fix things. Yay! Go ahead and get things finished. There we go. The one downside of playing a bunch of different games at the exact same time is you sometimes forget controls that should be relatively easy to remember. Why not? Oh, I didn't grab everything, that's why. I remember. Start placing everything. Is it pretty? No. Does it get the job done? Yes. That is what we're focused on. Yeah, the town building in here isn't exactly like the greatest, but it's not god awful. Just it's okay. For a first game, it's really good. Like if this was if this was like an indie game and it was their very, very first title, like this would be phenomenal. So, like even by today's standards too, which is actually a really, really good show of how well this game does. Alright, cool. At the very least do this. I especially love the music in this game. So, I think the music in this game is very, very solid. I'll literally just find myself randomly humming along with it, which is always fun. I'm not entirely sure about the audio in this version. I think it might have just been slightly glitched. I'm sure you got something in here. If anything else has been placed, any other boxes to open up. At least from the outside, I don't see anything. Okay, let's see. Fluffy donut! I want to eat a fluffy donut. There you go. I mean, eventually I would get enough items to boost everybody's, like, defense almost max. So that's not usually an issue. That's fair. I'm not opposed to RNG. I am aware that sometimes it just randomly screws you over. There are definitely times when there's something that I need and it's not going to come up on its own. That's always fun. I'm not really going to need these too much. So I can sell these. I don't think I need 3 of those. So I think we're good there. I'm a little bit short on food, so grab 2 of those because I'm about ready to go into a boss fight and I don't think I'm actually leveled up enough for it. And then 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 3, 4, 5. 5, 10, 11, yeah, we're good. Oh, yeah, they all the shops in this game have unlimited items, and I could buy bombs. I just am choosing not to, because most of the time I don't need them. I even have bomb nuts right here, so. Ah, yeah, that's true. If I did this, I could go ahead and do this as like a way to exchange, so I could put that one there, and then I put this one over here, and it'll do the math. But, if you just do speedy buy, it basically has unlimited items, so. I mean, there's also a glitched one, so if I go all the way down here, oh, well shit, that's gonna be stuck with me now. I have decreased my inventory by 1 because I'm an idiot. Anyway, there's a few glitches and stuff like that as well. That's also how you would get the broken dagger, is by doing something like that. Yeah. Oh well. That's what I get for trying to cheat the system. So, oh well. We just won't do it again, and that will always be in my inventory randomly. Just this invisible item that can't do crap. Alright. Let's get this last area done, and let's go ahead and defeat the boss. Oh, I've never had that issue. It's even the same thing in the PS2 version. All of those items have been available in the PS2 version. Ow! Okay, I'm gonna switch. Go ahead and quickly just heal up real quick. Oh, I didn't know that. Huh. Maybe there was a time where I did notice that he didn't have all of those items, and I just didn't realize that it was because of the order that I unlock things. I did notice that there's a few times where you get different items or you get different cutscenes based on when you go to those cutscenes or who you talk to for some of them. For instance, the one fat guy, I can't quite remember his name. Let me see if I can pull it up. Claude. One time I unlocked him, and when I went to go do the cutscene, he was actually in the middle of a shower, and he gave me... I think he still gave me the same thing. Oh no. He gave me cheese, he didn't give me the lollipop. So I had to get the lollipop somewhere else for the next part where you need that, so... which, out of context, sounds really freaking weird. Yeah, I went to his house, and he was taking a shower, and then instead of giving me a lollipop, he gave me cheese. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. You only played 16 hours? I have put tons of hours into this game. Like, almost ungodly amounts of hours into this game. This is actually my third playthrough on this current game mode, so, on the PS4 version, so, yeah, I've played this game a lot. It's good to get the lollipop early. It makes another cutscene later on. You can get through it a little bit faster. I think you can also get a different item later from another person instead of them giving you the lollipop. But I don't think it's necessary. I think it just makes things a little bit easier. As far as I'm aware, I don't think there's like different endings or something based on your choices. It is just nice that you get different cutscenes based on how you do things. But I don't think it like affects too much. Woo, turmoil. We will save that. We have a trade quest. Yeah. Which I've gotten that unique gems. It takes you a while to get it, but yeah, I got it, and I think it's the Sun Gem that you can get at the end, which is really cool. Very, very useful, like boosts everything huge. But you only get one, which kind of annoys me. There's a way to get more. Yeah, the only nice thing about getting all of those items unlocked at the first shop is you can get all the elemental upgrades, elemental attachments, so it's easier to upgrade that stuff for building up weapons. But, I mean, it's not, like, super necessary. It's basically just the difference of being able to play the game on normal mode or being able to play it on a slightly easier mode. You still have to go through and put in the work, though. I mean, the only other way to get, like, basically everything unlocked on a weapon is to do the broken dagger glitch, which I am trying to avoid. I have mentioned that I might use it occasionally just to speed up some level progression on the base weapons for new characters, so I'm not having to sit and grind as much, but other than that, like, I'm going to be doing everything mostly the old-fashioned way. Ooh, this isn't good. There we go. Get things back in the order that I like them. There we go. Put that there. it is a little bit addictive. It's got a good loop. Dungeon crawling, getting loot, coming back, buying repair powders and stuff like that, going back in, dungeon crawling again, getting further. It knows its formula and it does it well. I greatly appreciate that. I think I'm just going to upgrade things randomly. I don't think I'm going to focus too much on anything. Just because I'm going to end up status breaking this weapon, so just having things generally good on this will be, I think is a good investment. So I'm going to do this and this. Break it again. Yeah. And I also like the fact that the dungeon's different every time. It's like a slightly different philosophy from Dark Souls, because Dark Souls could still have like the whole dungeon grinding thing to it, but everything stays the same because the difficulty is in the skill-based as opposed to power-based. Because you could play Dark Souls with like the lowest level weapons and beat the whole thing. I mean, if you're insane and you don't like happiness, that's a thing you can do. Yeah, with this one, because it's more power-based, the fact that you get random dungeons each time you go in makes it a little bit more interesting. So, like, you have to explore it every time. Yeah, I mean, I've been telling Pops that the only thing I've only played Dark Cloud. I've never played Dark Cloud 2, and I started playing a little bit of Dark Cloud 2, and the fact that it had voice dialogue threw me off. So I still actually have to go through and play that one. But let me do that. And we'll put the banner. My wife probably would like it, but she's not really big into video games. She gets motion sickness super easy, so she doesn't play a lot. But I'm hoping to get her on more streams. Alright, we're playing the rest of this very dangerously, because I'm not playing smart. Let's switch weapons. I mean, I have the repair powder, so I can fix things. I just don't have the auto repair powder, so this is going to be... I gotta have to pay really close attention to when things are going. Yes, I have smooth brain. It's big brain, but it's smooth brain. Alright. I'm also just distracted by your guys' conversation. That would be somebody else. I don't know who Lolly Eyes is. But I'm sure she might be a wife. Yeah. That's what I thought. No, she's not my wife. Bye-bye. Alright, because I'm so close to the end, we are just gonna go ahead and go into the boss fight. So once I get this... There we go. once I get through this dungeon. We'll go ahead and do the boss fight. So, the stream's gonna go a little bit later than I initially planned, but that is fine. It should only go a little bit later. We are only going to do the boss fight once, so if I fail on the boss fight on this one, we will do it again next stream. So we're going to status break the dagger. And we're just going to do this. There we go. It's not going to be the weapon that I use in the boss fight, it's just so that way I have a reliable weapon should my other weapons break. You on drugs and vibing? While I personally am not a fan of drugs or substances, you do you. So, especially if you just vibing. Oh, did we lose Mike? How's that? Fixed? Is that better? I mean, I guess we could just do this as a standard playthrough, but I'm pretty sure you guys would like to actually hear what's going on. Oh, okay. Well, have fun. Yep. Alright, so I just gotta fix up my weapons. Specifically this one. So I think this one is my best shot. Maybe a Gladius. Now we'll use this one because I put the status broke one on here, so I think that'll be the best option. And then for Zhao, yeah, we want to keep this one. Go ahead and do. I was gonna say, we'll just boost your wind up a little bit more, just to make it a little bit stronger. And the thunder. I'm bringing the thunder. Let's go. Be careful, Axel. Seems that Dran is being manipulated. Then there's no choice but to fight him. Because everything always comes down to violence. The Fairy King woke up and chose violence. Use your power to break the spell. Yes. I mean, if you take the time to grind, you can basically get yourself the most powerful sword right away, and it becomes way easier. But if you just kind of like play through and rush through it, then it gets a lot harder. Oh, shit. Wow, I'm just doing awful. Still too close on that one. Get down here, you flying rabbit! Stop going over here. I don't think I'm doing this the most efficient way. I will have the VODs up on my YouTube channel. It's Flames of Axel Gaming. Highly recommend you go check it out. So, if you want to see the end. Yep. It is best to defeat Dran not dying, so... Okay. Buttons, buttons. Push the right buttons. Didn't realize that I could upgrade that. So let's go ahead and do that. Ooh, hello. Lots of switching back and forth. Okay, I think I'm gonna try something else real quick. I didn't do as much as I wanted it to. There we go. It's still not doing as much as I wanted it to. I was hoping this fight would go a little faster. I mean, at least it's still going. It's still doing better. Let's do something a little different. That's really not much better. Oh my, this is the better option. I probably should have taken more time to upgrade like the bone slingshot or something. But come on. on. Oh, I'm out of water. Oh, that's good. There we go. What has happened to me? And who are you? Those are fair questions. What? You say I was being manipulated? Yeah, nobody likes it when they find out. I, Dran, the god of beasts. What an embarrassment. Hey, kid. Sorry about that. That was nice of him to say sorry. Seems... I see. So, that's what's been happening on Earth. That dark genie, that's what the old man, the Fairy King, called it. If that's the case, we might be in trouble. I've heard that name before. Long ago, a monster called Black Demon appeared in East Terra. The creature caused massacres after massacre and almost brought the world to an end. Neither the most gallant knights nor the most powerful sorcerers could stand before the horror of the creature, much less harm it. Its powers seemed as vast as the limitless power of genies, thus people started to call it the Dark Genie. It wiped out nearly all of the known kingdoms of the world. Ultimately, only a few people survived on Earth. Then, when all seemed lost, a tribe called the Moon People created an enormous urn that could seal tremendous magical power and trapped the Dark Genie inside. The world recovered and peace was restored. The world was saved by the Moon People and their mastery of the magical arts. That's about all I know. If you want to go after that Dark Genie, you'd better have the Moon People on your side. I hear that the Moon People live quietly deep in the woods in a place located beyond the Matataki village. The Matataki village is just south of the Naroon village. Why not go there first? Yes. Odd. That Fairy King who never liked humans gave a kid like you the power of the stone. He's got something up. Oh well. I can use some fresh air for a change. Hop on my back. I'll give you a lift outside. I love this flying fuzzy thing. I want one. Still not as cool as Falkor. We're gonna go with flying fuzzy dragons. Falkor, I think, is the best. I appreciate your work, kid. I don't have a clue just how powerful this genie is, but it was powerful enough to control me. Be prepared, and take this along with you. Cool, I have a map. This is no plain world map, kid. It's a magical map that takes you to the place you point to instantly. First, use this map to go to the land of Matatiki village. I hear that the Moon People live deep in the Wise Owl Forest. Once you reach Matatiki, first thing, visit Great Treant. Follow the river and you'll find it. He might look a bit weird, but he takes good care of people. He is sure to give you a hand. So long. All right. So, I will need to finish up Naroon Village, but let me just go ahead and get these things placed real quick, and then I'll finish it up on the next stream. There we go. It's going to be relatively easy to finish that up. It'll only take a few minutes. But thank you for joining. Thank you for the lovely conversations, Pop and Lolly Lois. I hope you guys will join me again next Friday. And then, of course, if you want to watch this or any other VODs from past streams, you can see it on my YouTube channel, Flames of Acid Gaming. And let me get away from here because I'm pretty sure that's loud. There we go. But yeah, check out my YouTube channel, Flames of Acid Gaming. That's where I post my VODs. And then I play different games every day during the week, so I hope you would join me for those again. Next Friday we'll play more Dark Cloud. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, and I will see you next time.